Well, any memories of that Paul Lills Award night when you came in? Because you remember the speaker, right?
I do. Archie Manning.
Archie Manning. Now, he heard that Barry Sanders was coming to speak, and you sort of wish maybe you had a chance to have Barry Sanders. But Archie Manning's not bad, though,
Exactly,
right?
Not bad at all.
Now, what I thought would be interesting before we dive in, because we got a lot of ground to cover, and we'll try to open up for some questions too. Let's turn our attention to the screen over here. Tony Rankine over at KTV put together just some highlights of Raleigh. And sometimes, it's easy to forget, but Raleigh, you didn't, have as full as a career as you wanted. But, man, your time at Arkansas was impactful. So let's just watch a few highlights for a minute, just some of his great Mississippi State. Watch this stiff arm right here. Watch this stiff arm. Boom. Four touchdowns in the first half. 150 yards of the 200 in the first half. They could not stop you. I remember that.
It was a good game.
And I think you've got one little play. Let's see if we've got that. That's TCU right there. That was, I think, 150, right at 150, I think. There. And watch the end of this where he runs over an LSU DB right about. You want some of me? Okay. Right, there's the other one. We'll watch a couple more plays. Look at the speed and explosion there. I thought we had your jump pass in there, but maybe we don't. That's, of course, you had a nice game against A&M as well. Let's give it up for Raleigh Williams for those.
Thank you.
So first things first, tell everybody what you're up to, what you're doing right now.
Well, I just recently graduated from college in 3 years with a finance degree. But I just finished my first week of grad school. I'm getting my master's in operations management.
So do you have what's sort of your goal? What do you want to get? What do you want to do when you finish with your degree?
Well, obviously, I've always loved sports, and I've always been the guy that loves finances and loves the business side of things. So I've been blessed with a couple opportunities with sports agencies to become a sports agent and further my career in that.
Raleigh, Judy Henry, Raleigh. I was listening to, and also too, I asked him, I had to do this. I said, do you have a girlfriend? And he said, yeah. And I said, how many years? And how many years now?
It's been 3 years, and she's watching. So hey.
Oh, very good. Well, but what's her name?
Jillian.
Julian? Jillian. By the way, I asked him. I said, is she the one? He said, I think so. I'm just saying. That'll get you out of the doghouse for a few months. You better act good now. The pressure's on. Let's go back real quick to Dallas Bishop. You heard what the Rasco numbers. I mean, your senior year, 44 touchdowns, almost 3,000 yards your senior year.
Yes,
I mean, that is, in the state of Texas, that's pretty impressive. I thought it was interesting. They gave you a 3-star rating. Did that ever bother you that you felt like, you should have been higher than that?
I mean, it never bothered me. I've always been a kid that's just worked hard and let my game do the speaking. So I never really looked at all that kind of stuff. And now I have a brother who's a 5-star and who's number 1 in the country. So it's cool to see him get the recognition he deserves. Yeah. but it all worked out well, so I can't complain.
By the way, we'll go ahead and mention that. His brother is the number 1 safety in America, committed to Texas A&M.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, but that what obviously it's some great genes in the family.
Yes, sir.
Is he built like you? Is he a little bit taller?
No, my brother's 6'1.5", 6'2", so he's taller than me. He's slim, but he plays safety, so we're not really built the same, but we look alike in the face. So yeah.
Well, I thought this was interesting talking about his recruiting. You early on, your 10th grade year, committed to Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze, correct?
Yes, sir.
He asked about. He said, what kind of reaction did you get when you booked Hugh Freeze this year? And I said, well, some people didn't like it. And that some people did, but you said, well, he said, you know what? This is what Raleigh said. Well, wait a minute. He's got a connection to the club. Didn't he speak here when he was Arkansas State head coach? I said, yes, Raleigh. That's exactly right. So I thought it was a great observation. He recruited you. You committed as a sophomore.
Yes, sir.
That changed. Talk about how you got to your junior, senior year and the Razorbacks.
Right. So he offered me as a freshman, and they were the first school to really reach out to me, and that meant a lot to me as a little kid. And I've always wanted to play college football, so it meant a lot to me. And after my junior year, my recruiting process started to speed up a little bit, and I remember I started to get offers, and first Duke offered, and then Arkansas offered. And with Duke being the school that it was like, man, academically, this is amazing. And I remember that Coach Thomas at the time, the running backs coach, he was like, hey, man, I just want to get you on campus. Just come on campus. So we scheduled a visit, and I remember getting to Arkansas and being like, wow, like it was above anything I ever thought it was going to be. And I mean, literally within the first couple hours of being in the state and talking to the coaches, I knew I had to come here, and that's kind of how that happened.
Now, Utah, that's worth a round of applause if you're a Razorback fan. Now, interesting. I asked him about who was your recruit? Who was the coach that recruited you? And talk about that transition.
Yeah, so Coach Thomas recruited me, and after I signed, 2 days after signing day, he left and went to the Saints. And then we had Coach Singleton. He recruited me at Oklahoma State. He came here 2 days after signing day. The next year, he leaves and goes to the Colts at the time. And then we get Coach Mitchell, and now the whole coaching staff changes. So I was involved with the team until this fall. So I've had 4 running back coaches I've worked with in my whole college career. So
yeah, that's very unique. Now, I was looking, I don't know if Razorback fans, a lot of people are excited about Chad Morris and the recruiting class he has. Well, some people forget that Brett Bielema had at least one. I'm looking at it right now. That class, your freshman class in 2011, I'm sorry, not 2011, 2015, was the highest rated class since 2011. It was rated 21, and that's ESPN. I can't remember. I think it was 7 4-stars. And so I'm going to throw out a few names that are still playing for the Hogs. I just want you to sort of give me, when I say these names, what really comes to mind. Okay. Yelda Froholt.
Freak. He's physically. Yeah, physically. Right. He's kind of crazy too, but he's a good guy. Yeah. But yeah, he works really hard. Great leader. Started his own defense, obviously, when he came in as a defensive player. Now switched, and now he's going to make a lot of money one day, so I'm happy for him.
Ryan Pulley.
Super athlete. One of the best corners in the country, so he's another guy that's going to lead this team this year. That class also had 3. They said it was the best tight end class in America. Yeah. Because you had C.J. O'Grady with Cheyenne O'Grady, you had Austin Cantrell, and I think it was one other tight end. Will Gregg, who is not with the Razorbacks anymore. When I mentioned C.J. O'Grady and Austin Cantrell, what do you think about them? Both of them are hard workers. They're both different, but C.J. has probably one of the best hands on the team, and Austin Cantrell is probably one of the most physically gifted guys on our team.
What about, I was looking here, Colton Jackson, who they're struggling to get him healthy. He's one of the back injury and trying to get him back on the line.
Yeah, and he's a really good friend of mine, and I think he's going to help when he gets back healthy. He's going to help a lot on that left side.
The one name I want to throw at you, there's 2. Dre Greenlaw, who's played about every snap since he's gotten there.
Me and Dre, we came in together, and we were both 3 stars. We were both the lower-ranked guys on the class, and I remember we always pushed each other saying, hey, we're going to be the guys that make a difference, and he's still doing that, so I'm super proud of him.
And then last but not least, a guy we honor here at the Touchdown Club, maybe, no, it wouldn't have been the same year, but Ty Story. Yeah. Ty Story, we honored him as the high school player of the year, that classification. Tell me about Ty Story, your thoughts on him.
Ty Story, he's a really hard worker as well. Regardless of any opportunity he gets, he's going to make the most of it, and I'm excited about him getting a chance to be able to play. And just like we said earlier with Cole, the fact that they're going to push each other to be the best, and I think that's going to help the Razorbacks in the long run.
You look at you came in and your freshman year, I don't know if you guys remember 2015, Alex Collins was a running back at that time, correct?
Right.
So Raleigh started getting reps, and the Razorbacks had lost 3 in a row, and Coach Bielema was in hot water. Mm-hmm. You guys go to Tennessee, and you have a monster game. You have 100 yards rushing and we'd never beaten, right? I don't think we'd ever beaten Tennessee at Knoxville. You guys knock them off. You have 100 yards rushing. What do you remember about that game?
I just remember that being a really, really fun game, and that was kind of a game that allowed people to see that I could really compete at that level. I think until that point, it was kind of nobody really knew, and I remember before the game, I talked to Alex, and we both were like, man, we're going to show out this game, and when it happened, it was a great feeling to know that we had talked about it and ended up working out in our favor.
So at that point, you're thinking, hey, listen, this is going to be good, and you get to the Auburn game, and I asked Raleigh. I said, "You're okay if we show the play?" And he said, "Yeah." And I just want to let's just take a look. I know it's sort of light in here. I don't know if we can turn down the lights a little bit. I don't know if Brandon's in here. Let's go ahead and show. This is at Auburn. What quarter was this? This third quarter?
Third quarter, yeah.
Third quarter.
It was at Fayetteville.
It was in Fayetteville, right? And basically, it was a you remember what play it was?
It was toss. We called it truck.
Call it truck. All right. That's fast play. Now, I want you to not to be graphic, but you can see by his arms flailing that you know that something's up. Here's a slow mo. That's a face mask right there, first of all. And then you look as you roll over. You can tell something's wrong. So tell us, walk us through what you remember, if anything, about that play.
It was just a toss play, and I thought that I could get the first down, and I made a cut, and I remember getting pulled by my face mask, and I just thought, just get out of it and keep going. And as soon as I got out the hold on my face mask, I got 2 hits on both sides of my shoulders, and I remember just falling to the ground, and my body automatically rolled over on its own, and I remember not being able to feel anything, but seeing my arms moving and looking up and being like, man, I'm not doing that. And I remember literally probably like 30 seconds later, my mom was looking up. I was looking up and I saw my mom, and then I saw my dad. And that was the toughest thing for me, because as a kid, you always look at your parents for everything to be okay. And when I looked at them, you could see their face, and they were just as scared as I was. And I remember just kind of trying to get my feeling back, and eventually I was able to. And it was definitely just a scary day and one of a lot of emotions.
Yeah, did the doctors, I guess, as you're going back in that stretcher, just show the stretcher? Were they telling you, hey, we can't move, we got to?
Yeah, they wouldn't let me move on anything, and that was really frustrating because I was trying to convince myself that I could move. So it was definitely a tough time. Did
you think that was it? You think you were done then?
None of that came in my head football wise. It was just, man, let me be able to move. And as soon as I felt like I could, it was definitely a lot of pain, but I was just kind of happy that I could feel everything.
And it was a neck injury. I know you're not a doctor, but in layman's terms, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I had a disc get pushed back into my spine, and they had to push it back in and screw my neck. I screwed my disc back in place, so that's why I have a scar in the front of my neck right here.
So you did that what month? How far after the injury did you do the surgery? Within a month or two?
Oh, no, the surgery was like 2 hours later.
Oh, so you did 2 hours. Okay, yeah. So it wasn't they didn't wait. So they did the surgery. Mm-hmm. So did your mom go, you're not playing anymore?
Oh man, they were just like, don't even talk about it. So, moms, they care about us more than anything. They don't care about football. So, I remember it took me probably about a week later to really have a conversation with my parents. They had left Fayetteville, and I called them. I was in the training room, and I was like, hey, I want to play again. And it was a blessing to me that the response to that was, hey, if that's what you want to do, we'll support you, and you just got to take a day at a time. And that really gave me the confidence to go out there my sophomore year and to be able to play without being scared of thinking something else was going to happen again.
Yeah, so when you go back after your sophomore year, you had no hesitation that first time you hit?
No, none at all. And I've played football since I was 4 years old, so I've taken enough hits in my day, and I kind of gotten over that injury.
Is that I'd asked Raleigh, I said, besides Coach Bielema, who was your favorite coach while you were up there? And you said it was Ben Herbert.
Yes, sir.
The strength coach.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that because maybe you had to work a little extra with him because of your injury?
Yeah, he's just a really, really good guy. He's one guy that, when you look at him, it looks like he's looking through your soul. So it's just, he really knows a lot about you as a person, and he really cares about everything other than football. And so we had really just talks about life and about how to be a good man. And that was somebody that, one, you just spend a lot of time with in the off season. So we really had a good relationship.
I know your faith is important. So you have another chance to play again. So you come back your sophomore year. Do you feel like, wow, I'm blessed that God's given me the opportunity to play again?
I was extremely happy. I was extremely blessed. And for it to turn out the way it did, it was definitely a blessing to have a success.
Yeah, that sophomore year, you just start ripping it up right off the bat. I asked some of the things that I was asking him. What was your least favorite play? And it was
the fumble against Texas A&M.
And you remember that? That you were having.
I remember.
You were having a great game, and you get down to the one, right? And that may have sealed the deal.
Yeah, it was like an 11-yard run, and I thought I was about to score, and I spin away, and I get the ball stripped out, and that was really a tough moment because I was literally a yard away from the end zone. So yeah.
Yeah, was that had to be during your career? The A&M deal, it was a booger, man.
Yeah,
it just could not get past it.
Yeah, it's something I hope we can get it this year for real.
Yeah, and then you talk about maybe your greatest game was that Mississippi State game, which Jim was talking about there, which we saw in the highlights.
Right.
That was one of those things to where if you don't even remember, it was like every hole nobody was touching. You were running for 70, 40. 4 touchdowns in the first half. What do you remember about that game?
I remember that was the one game that I never had a pairing at. They were, my brother had, I think, a playoff game, and I remember they were on a bus ride back to Dallas, and I remember texting them right before we went out for the game, and I was like, hey, it's going to be a great game. And I remember my dad texted me back and was like, I know it. Like, have a good one. And I think it was like the second play of the game or the second run, I went and took it like 70 yards. And I remember being like, I know they're seeing it like right now. Like, he told me it was going to be a good game. And it was just one of those games where you kind of feel it before and you know that like nothing can stop you. And we had talked about it as an offense, and it kind of happened.
Well, that was probably good because I think we gave up some points defensively that game.
Yeah.
Talking about some of the players you played against that sophomore year, you said maybe the toughest player you ever played against was Reggie Ragland.
Yeah, and I think that was my freshman year. I remember it was a play against Alabama. It was just a dive up the middle, and the play didn't count, but we snapped the ball, and our offensive line didn't play the play, but their entire defensive line did. So everybody got through. They hit me so hard, and I remember I got back in the huddle, and Sebastian Tola says, "Hey, little bro, your helmet broke," and my face mask was hanging off my helmet. So I had to come out, and I was like, "No, help me!" And I remember I had a couple friends in Alabama, and their intro for all their games included that play for the rest of the season.
That's another team that just could not get over the hump.
I mean, right? They're one of the best in the country. So
right.
Hopefully we can get that this year again.
So you have you lead the SEC in rushing. Think about that. Again, back to Brett Bielema, you have Alex Collins, who was, I think he led the league in rushing or touchdowns or something. Then you turn around, you do it, and you look up, there's Darren McFadden up there, and pretty darn good running backs, and you were one of them after that sophomore year. You had to be feeling pretty good.
I definitely did. I was in great company. That's one thing Arkansas has always had is running back. So it was definitely something that I wanted to keep going, and I'm looking forward to watching these guys come up, continue to do that as well.
Well, let's talk about going into what would have been your junior year, 2017. It was a spring game, right? It was a spring game. Let's go to Matt. Let's look here. This was something I was here at this. Sosa Agim hit you. It was sort of brushed you, really.
Yeah.
Here's a slow-mo. Again, there's that movement you don't want to see where the arms are down to the side like that. Immediately they go on to stabilize you. And I remember thinking while watching this, I thought, that didn't look like it. Here he goes. He barely touched you, right?
Yeah.
So what do you remember about that point where you look, you roll back? What's going through your mind there?
I was just thinking, not again.
Not again.
I'd had a really good spring. I'd had a really good year. And that's what sucked right there. It was having my little brother.
There's mom and the little brother.
Yeah, my brother was here this time, and he's the guy that plays football, and I just didn't want him to have to be scared when he plays. And I remember seeing him and seeing my family, and I was like, I didn't want to do that to them more than anything. And at that point, I was like, I don't know what the future holds. And we ended up going to the hospital, and again, I thought it was just a stinger, and ended up being way worse than that. And the doctors pretty much said, hey, you need to hang this up, and that was definitely a tough moment for me.
Was it when they told you that? First of all, your mom's there, your brother's there. You're thinking, oh no. How long was it before the doctor said, hey, this needs to be it? Did you first? I know the mentality is, hey, I'm going to come back like I did the first time. How long was it before the doctor said, man, you're not going to be able to come back this time?
He never really talked about it until after the MRI, and we had the MRI and everything, and he was like, hey, you don't need to do this again. And that was kind of a tough moment for me because one, in the back of my head, I kind of knew that this isn't normal for it to happen again. And then we found out that it was really a separate injury from the one before. That's what was even worse. It was because it was just like, how did this happen? So it was something that was tough, and over time I've gotten able to handle it a little better, but it was something that was tough, and I had my family to help me, and I'm just glad to be here today.
Is mom glad you're done just because that's what mamas do?
Yeah, mom's glad that I can walk. Mom's glad that I can still live my life, and that's important to her. That's important to me, and that's the blessing of this all.
I mentioned the toughest player you played against. I asked about the best player you played with as a teammate, and it was
Frank Ragnow. Frank's probably one of the best people I've ever played with, and he's a guy that I really consider a brother, and we talk all the time, and he's somebody that's definitely going to work harder than anybody else, and if he sees you working hard, he's going to put it in his head, I need to be there earlier. And it was times in the summer where it would be literally me and him there at 10 o'clock at night just getting work in separately. It was a guy that whenever I was going to watch film, he was there, and obviously it's paying off, and he's going to be in the league for a long time, so I'm really happy for him and his success, and I know his family's proud of him as well.
I know Brett Bielema was your coach. Was it tough in 2017 to not be able to play? I mean, you guys had a lot of injuries, Cornelius and Frank, and you guys were falling left and right and just, did not have a good season. Was it tough to watch that?
It definitely was tough, and especially for Coach B, because that's one that a lot of our players rallied around. And when you had me go down, and Austin Allen and Frank Ragnow and Jared Cornelius and Ryan Pulley, those are a lot of leaders on your team that went down and couldn't play anymore. And I think that really showed when, stuff started to get tough last season, that we didn't have a lot of leaders that were supposed to be there.
Yeah, I was just going to ask how, I went through that. I played under two different coaches, so I understand that transition. But you didn't get a chance to play for the second one, right. So you ended it with Coach Bielema. Do you and Coach Bielema still speak?
Yeah, we talk about once or twice a month. We really keep up with each other a lot. We had a great relationship before I was here. We had a great one when I was here, and since he's left, we've still been close. So I can honestly say he's a great person over anything. And usually people that are good like him end up on top in the end. So I'm excited to see what happens with his career.
You know, I know you went for a while. You spent some time with the Dallas Cowboys. Tell us about that experience.
That was a great opportunity, just to see how the Cowboys run as an organization in the inside. And I got to build a lot of connections and meet a lot of people that I still keep in contact with and to this day. So it was definitely an opportunity that I don't take for granted, and I'm looking forward to growing those relationships as I grow.
You know, I hate to bring up, because obviously he's answered the tough questions, and I got a couple more tough ones. The game that hurt the most to lose,
Virginia Tech. That was the toughest loss I've ever had in college for sure. One, we were up at halftime and we should have won that game. But two, just to see the seniors go out that way, and what was even worse, is kind of funny, is the buses weren't running correctly or something. So we had to walk home after that game from the game to the hotel, and that was horrible. Because you're walking by fans, you're walking by everybody, and we just put on our headphones and put in maps on our phone, the hotel, and we had to figure it out, and it was horrible.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because again, that was coming off the Missouri loss as well.
Right.
So was that something that you heard Coach Beelan to say, we're not going to make that mistake again the second time?
Yeah, it definitely was. It was something that they preached from the end of that Missouri game to VTech, and in the halftime of that game, it was something that they preached, and we all had the mindset that we were going to go out there and finish the game, and for some odd reason, we weren't able to do that, and that's something that it still stings with all of us.
What are you, and I'll open up for some questions here in just a minute. What's your relationship? Have you had a chance to be around Chad Morris or the new staff?
I have. I've been working with them up until this fall, just with the opportunities that I've been given. But I've known Coach Morris for a year or two. I've known his family for a while, and he's a really good man over anything. He's somebody that the players are going to rally behind. He's somebody that's going to bring in an exciting offense. Coach Chavis, they're going to have a great defense. I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens with this staff, and I know that they're going to work their butts off for everybody to be successful, and I know that our team is going to do the same.
Have you felt the embrace of that they want ex-players to be around?
They do. They definitely do. They had that barbecue last week, I think, and they've had a lot of players come in since he's gotten there. So they definitely are bringing in a family environment. They definitely are bringing in a hard-working mentality, and I'm excited to see where it goes this year.
I had asked you're in litigation right now because of your injury, and one of the things I asked, obviously his attorney is not going to allow him to say anything, but I was just making sure. I was curious who was involved with that. Was it the U of A? Were they a party to that lawsuit? And you said that is not
No,
correct.
That's not true. But they are helping as much as they can with the information that they need to give. And I mean, it's just a situation that we put in God's hands, and just have faith that it's going to work out the way that it should.
Gotcha. All right, let's open up for some questions. Johnny from El Paso. First,
coaches and their mistreatment of injured players. And my question is two-pronged. One, you mentioned how Coach B and Ben Herbert were. How were you treated, and have you thought about some of these other programs and the mistreatment these guys got compared to how you were treated?
Johnny was asking, for those in the back can't hear that, he's asking about how was he treated in comparison to what's happened at Ohio State and Maryland.
Right. It's tough when you see that, because we're all in the same position. We're all college athletes that just want to, get a degree and make our families proud. And when you see other programs being ran like that, I know it's tough. And I can honestly say we've never had anything like that happen here. We've had, with the new staff and the past staff, a good group of guys that really care about you, and they're going to push you. Don't get me wrong. That's the kind of game that we play, but they don't push you to a limit where it's too far. And they always have your input. They always ask what's going on. So they're very in tune with what the players think, and they don't ever push you to do something that you shouldn't do.
I failed to ask one thing I meant to ask you. When you got there, the coordinators that were there are not there anymore. For example, Dan Enos, right? Dan Enos is now at Alabama, and then you've got Sam Pittman, who's now at Georgia. Yeah. Talk about maybe how that losing those guys impacted the team.
Pittman, that was really tough. Up until that point, we really had one of the best lines in college football. And, when he left, it kind of hurt us a lot, and we lost a lot of depth, and we just lost what Pittman brought to the table. And with Enos, I think Enos was a really good coordinator, but, when things start happening up front, it kind of makes you change what you do in a scheme. So that's something that I hated for both of those guys, but I'm happy for Enos for his opportunity, and obviously Pittman's doing really well. So it was something that impacted us, but we'll see how it plays out.
It's a little odd. I don't know if anybody's seen the thing with the Tide. Actually, Bo Mattingly is doing it over at on ESPN2 about Nick Saban, and you see Dan Enos in there. Yeah. It's sort of weird. Just as you saw him coaching Razorbacks, a year ago, and now he's coaching the Alabama Crimson Tide. Next, yes.
Yeah, I wanted you to talk a little bit about Texas high school football in particular. Just like we had the Salt Bowl the other night, which was that special game with thousands of people. My understanding is that's been going on for years in Texas. Like like they sell season tickets and reserve seats for all the high school games. And also, Dallas Carter High School is kind of famous. And in that movie Friday Night Lights, one of the big scenes is when all the teams first come out with their helmets in their hands. They show all the faces of the Dallas Carter players, and the entire team looked 30 years old.
How do I feel about the movie or Carter in real life? Oh, well, for one thing, Texas high school football is insane. I mean, when you look at some of these stadiums, it's just not like any other place I've ever seen. They take it really serious. I know growing up, high school football was bigger than college and NFL. And then second was college football. That's just how it is. And so with that comes a lot of politics, comes a lot of different things going on. I can honestly say, though, we played Carter my senior in high school, and they're high school kids. They're not grown men or anything like that. But they're serious, man. When you go to some of these high schools, there are some 6'8" freaks. That's just how it is. But I mean, that's where it's a lot of talent that comes out of that state.
Funny you bring that up. Also, your favorite player growing up was
Vince Young.
Young at Texas.
I grew up. Don't hate me. I'm from Texas, but I grew up a Texas fan. And so watching that national championship game was definitely one of my highlights as a kid.
Yeah, that I was going to ask. You know, there's a lot of people have made the comment about Arkansas needs to get in Texas more, and that's one of the reasons they hired Chad
Right.
Morris. What do you think about that? The Texas players that you were at Arkansas with, did you guys feel like they need to be recruiting the state more?
I think the more kids you get from Texas, the better. There's a lot of talent in the state, and even you can see like this new staff, they're recruiting Texas really hard, and it's already starting to pay off with Mike Woods. I think that this guy's going to really, really be a good football player, and I think you'll be surprised with how well he does, and he's a Texas product.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question. You mentioned Ben Herbert, and I'm curious to hear your perspective on the different styles or the differences in the coaching staff, and specifically as it relates to their strength and conditioning. It seems like the Morris crew is more focused on getting leaner and faster, whereas Bielema was all about getting bigger and stronger. I'm interested to hear your perspective on that, as well as your take on the quarterback controversy.
For those that are listening online, the philosophy and the difference between the two coaching staffs.
So, like you're correct. With Coach B, it was more of a strength-based program, and I think that for what he was trying to do, I think that was what we should have been doing. But with Coach Morris, he is a fast-paced guy. We're going to have a fast-paced offense. We're going to have an attacking defense, and with that, you need speed, and that's something in this league that you have to have. They always say you'd rather have speed than be chasing speed, and I think that, and I think that Coach True. That staff, I mean, they do focus on it. They run a lot, and you can see it by the way these guys' bodies have been changing. A lot of guys look faster, and a lot of guys look more lean.
Would you like to play in this offense versus the offense you had, or doesn't really make much of a difference? Does this offense excite you?
This offense does excite me. I think that it's an offense that you could put up 50 points if you have the right people behind you. For me, I'm a running back, so I love running the ball. I love having the I formation, round and pound. And when you have that and it works, it's hard to stop because you hold the ball all game. But when you can't have that running attack and when you don't have the people up front that can do it for you, it shows what it did last year.
I'm sure you talked to Raleigh Williams, your teammate. Is he excited about it? Did he feel happy about it?
He's really excited. I mean, Raleigh looks really good from what I've seen. He's lost some weight. He looks fast. He's really in tune, and he's leading that running back group right now.
Yeah, I think one more or two more. Yes. Ann.
I was surprised to hear you say that it was a different injury that the second time, because I just assumed that it was the same. Can you explain how it's different?
That was for those
Yeah.
that know there were two different injuries, not the same one.
Yeah, I can't really explain the real details about it, but it was a different part of my neck and my spine than the injury before. And so that's how it was kind of frustrating to me, was that it wasn't just a reoccurring injury. It was a totally different one.
Obviously it was time for your neck to finish with football.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is not a question, but reading the reports about your injuries and the support you received from your family.
Thumbs up. Obviously, you're going through that. Family is huge, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very blessed to have an amazing father, an amazing mom, and a little brother and a little sister that support me more than anybody else. And they're definitely the people I go to when anything is hard. And that was definitely a tough situation. Until this day, they're the people that I go to, and they're the people that I can count on to be there for me at all times.
Well, I can tell you this is that, as we know, in this group, we love seeing not just the athletes that play at Arkansas, but all the college athletes that come down, high school athletes. You know, there's something to be said when you have a kid who not only excels as a player, but excels as a human being. And you're a class act. You have been the whole time you've been
Really
here.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Is he not the kind of young man you want representing this state?
Thank you.
So we wish you the best in your future endeavors. If you ever want to come back again to the Touchdown Club, we want you back. And for those who are 50-yard line members and sponsors, want to get pictures with Raleigh afterwards, let's do that now. If not, remember, tickets go on sale for Mean Joe Green in about 30 minutes, and we'll see you a big crowd next Tuesday. Another round of applause for Raleigh Williams, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for being